This angel never could have imagined that after granting this man the ultimate omnipotent power, what would greet him was a merciless punch without hesitation. But before he could even beg for mercy, his wings were brutally torn apart, simply because the man knew that the seemingly holy angel before his eyes was actually a twisted psychopath who delighted in slaughter. And humans were nothing more than livestock raised by God. They gradually developed within the so-called prison of Earth. One day, God grew weary of the daily routine of feeding these insignificant ants, and decided to use this apocalyptic game to exterminate humanity. However, an unexpected variable occurred during this process. While everyone else was kneeling down, prostrating themselves before the angel, the man who should have become a puppet instead killed the angel who delivered God's judgment. It turns out I had been reincarnated 98 times. In my 99th reincarnation, I became the strongest human with just a scythe, and also the last human. But when I entered the final stage, I discovered that the boss room required at least 5 players to unlock, which led to my elimination once again. Watching my body gradually dissolve, I felt no fear whatsoever. The next second, I was back at the moment when the disaster began. At this time, the streets were still filled with laughter and joy, but suddenly, the darkness was illuminated by a holy radiance. Immediately after, an angel slowly descended, accompanied by that light. No one could believe their eyes, thinking it was someone's elaborate prank. The angel simply smiled with pursed lips upon seeing this. Just as he was about to speak, he was interrupted by a man who thought the angel was just role-playing. But the next second, a red beam shot from the angel's eyes. The questioning man's throat exploded instantly. This horrifying scene made everyone cry out in terror. Only I remained unmoved. Even though I had experienced this 100 times, I still found this angel thoroughly repulsive. At this moment, the angel shouted loudly for silence. Now your souls are going to play a game. The game has a total of 20 levels. Completing missions will earn you generous rewards, and you'll also be able to return to the real world. Before anyone could react, everyone was transported to the game arena. At this time, the angel reminded everyone, I have prepared gifts for you all. Open your system panels to view them. I skillfully opened my own panel. Black Scythe, Level 1. Title: None. And in the inventory section, there was an item called Return Rune. But this time, the system indicated that the rune imprinting had failed. Detected that player has returned 100 times. Acquired title: Time. The last regressor effect. Revive at any location after death and restore full health points, but can only be used once. I was utterly shocked. You have to understand, resurrection was a skill only priests could use, and even then it only restored 30% of health points. Everyone gradually activated their runes. The angel snapped his fingers. All players in the current area received a mission. Eliminate 100 goblins. Mission failure will result in elimination. The next second, a goblin appeared not far away. When they clearly saw its small stature, everyone's tense expressions instantly faded, thinking it would be as simple as playing a virtual game. The player's excited expressions caught the angel's eye. He merely smiled wickedly. Suddenly, thousands upon thousands of light pillars illuminated the field. Humans in this area, 10,000. Goblins, 100,000. Well then, let the game begin. As soon as the words fell, the goblins charged toward the crowd. The players were immediately overwhelmed by the sheer numbers. That's when I stepped forward, using my long legs to my advantage. I kicked one to death. Everyone watched in stunned amazement. I then picked up the dropped weapon. In a team, if you don't want to be bothered by others, you must demonstrate overwhelming strength. Drawing the angel's attention was also crucial. Facing the combined assault of 2 goblins, I dodged with a flash and eliminated them both. My speed was so fast that bystanders couldn't help but praise me continuously. This also boosted everyone's confidence tremendously. Although we're not as strong as that black scythe guy, we feel like we can give it a try. But the next second, a green light flashed. The person who had just spoken was instantly slashed across the throat by a goblin. Everyone immediately panicked, being beaten into complete disarray by the goblins. Screams echoed one after another, like a scene from hell itself. No one dared to treat this as a game anymore. Their only belief was to survive. In my first reincarnation, I had made the same mistake. It wasn't until I died several times that I understood clearly. No one could leave this place without completing the mission. Watching humanity's predicament, the angel actually burst into delighted laughter. However, his gaze occasionally glanced toward me, who stood out with exceptional performance, because in my eyes, he saw not the slightest trace of panic. In just a brief moment, I had achieved 70% mission progress. Black Scythe. I never expected. You would actually block all information except for missions. The angel seemed somewhat annoyed, but soon became resigned. Although guiding these humans was beneath his dignity, he unexpectedly discovered that watching them die brought him an inexplicable pleasure. Before I knew it, I had already gained 4 levels, and each level up granted 2 attribute points. I allocated all of them to agility, because agility not only improved dodge rate, but also enhanced attack power and speed. Soon I became the first to complete the mission. I obtained a low-grade weapon selection scroll and a golden treasure chest. I immediately used the weapon scroll to select a throwing weapon. As for the golden treasure chest, I decided not to open it for now. A few hours later, players gradually completed their missions one after another. However, only 5,000 players remained in total. At this moment, the angel spoke up and asked me, "Black Scythe, did you obtain some powerful rune?" I simply smiled faintly and said, "Why don't you just check my panel to find out?" The angel immediately felt somewhat embarrassed, because he simply didn't have that ability. But he pretended as if he already knew. Seeing this, I smiled slightly and said, "Angel Lord, you wouldn't happen to lack the ability to clearly see other people's attribute panels, would you?" As soon as these words were spoken, everyone's expressions changed dramatically. The angel was even more furious beyond compare. This insignificant ant dares to be so arrogant. If the previous omnipotence wasn't a one-time use, I would crush your head immediately. Suddenly, he thought of an idea, and then told the others to wait where they were, while he wanted to have a private talk with me. Before long, the angel brought me to a small grove. He planned to eliminate me here. As long as there were no eyewitnesses, he wouldn't receive any punishment. When he had selected a perfect spot and was preparing to have me come over, what greeted him was a merciless iron fist. When he realized what happened, he instantly flew into a rage. But looking around, he couldn't find any trace of me. The next second, I suddenly appeared behind him, grabbing hold of his Asosu white wings, and tore them off directly with brute force. And my purpose for doing this was to make him lose his ability to escape, simply because I knew clearly that angels inherently look down on humans. And I also knew his elimination ability could only be used once, so I deliberately lured him here to kill me before the angel could even speak words of mercy. I fiercely thrust out with my blade, directly piercing through his body. And all of this was entirely for the purpose of becoming the first person to kill an angel, thereby obtaining the unique hidden reward and achievement. This was information I obtained after my 15th rebirth. Not only could I obtain an extremely powerful slaughter rune, I would also be rewarded with a bottle of angel's blood. It could allow me to change class to the unique, hidden profession of death. God. But everyone could only change classes at level 10. I had to complete this before they did, to ensure I received the generous rewards. And just at this moment, the system announced the end of the first trial. Everyone's souls instantly returned to their bodies, feeling as if they had experienced a dream. But the massive number of corpses around them made them realize that everything was real. Of the 1.8 billion people, only 900 million survived. Just then, a man discovered something strange. He then picked up a rock, and with just a gentle squeeze, it crumbled to dust. This indicated that the real world would also inherit the power of souls. But I understood that this wasn't good news for ordinary people, because as players' strength gradually increased, even the most advanced thermal weapons would be unable to eliminate them. In the end, everyone could potentially become a warlord to prevent the world from falling into chaos. I had to control all players with overwhelming power, but right now I had more important matters to handle. And 30 seconds later, I returned home and woke up my sleeping younger brother. Then I brought him to the supermarket, spending all my savings on lottery tickets, and they were all the same numbers. My brother was furious that I had wasted all our savings, but I just smiled confidently and told him to relax, because these were all winning numbers. I knew very clearly that the future world economy would become chaotic, but equipment trading between players would continue constantly, and all payments would be made in cash. So I had to obtain sufficient funds. Afterwards, I used this money for investments and spent a fortune to purchase a luxury residence. My brother thought it was too extravagant for just 2 people, but I told him the more expensive the residence, the better the security facilities, because on the first day of every month, players' souls would participate in the game. And during this time, we were at our most vulnerable, so we had to avoid accidents in reality. 2 days later, the second round of the game began. I patted my brother's head and told him not to worry. Opening my eyes again, I appeared in the game world. Everyone recognized me as the first place winner from last time, but they all deliberately kept their distance from me. Just at this moment, an angel suddenly appeared out of thin air. Everyone wondered why it wasn't the original angel. He explained that the previous angel had an accident and that he would guide the players in the second round. The angel then began announcing the rules for this round. This round wouldn't involve killing, but required players to select a regional representative within 3 hours. As long as they completed this task, they would be transported back to the real world, and the selected representative would have dominion over all players in the region. It could even decide the life and death of others. Everyone was ecstatic to hear they wouldn't have to die, but I knew this task wasn't the most important one, because a hidden mission would appear in the second round. But I had to reach level 10 first, so I found a goblin at the forest's edge, rushed over and eliminated it with a single strike. The monsters at the edge were far too few. Immediately, I chose to venture into the more dangerous depths of the forest. There were countless goblins here. An ordinary person coming to this place would have been scared enough to wet their pants, but I merely showed an excited smile in my eyes. They were nothing more than experience points. Half an hour later, my level had risen to 9. I didn't hesitate for a moment, directly allocating all attribute points to agility, because even those with extremely powerful constitution in the early stages would still die from critical hits, and with enough speed, one could easily dodge attacks. Just at this moment, I suddenly noticed something unusual. I had been so busy fighting that I hadn't realized someone was following behind me, so I raised my short blade and told that person to come out. As soon as the words fell, a woman emerged from behind the trees. She hurriedly apologized to me, indicating that she had no malicious intent, and turned to call her companion over. But when I saw the man's face clearly, my pupils immediately contracted sharply. He was Jin Woo's right-hand man, a player with extremely powerful abilities. Not only that, Jin Woo was also one of the teammates I was looking for, but I shouldn't have encountered him at this time. It was the female celebrity beside him who caused this butterfly effect, thereby changing the trajectory of the future. But I absolutely despised this feeling, because it would make the future unpredictable, so I inquired about the reason they were following me. The female celebrity's fingers trembled with some nervousness, saying she saw that I had gotten first place and wanted to team up, but I refused them outright. Not to mention that I didn't need teammates right now. More importantly, I needed to accelerate my leveling speed, because the second round of the game would soon end. As I left this place, the female celebrity's body became uncontrollable, and she collapsed to her knees. That person's aura was truly terrifying. He didn't achieve first place without reason. What a pity she couldn't latch onto his coattails. Meanwhile, a goblin was looking around cautiously, never expecting that I would suddenly appear behind him, fiercely swinging my blade into the goblin's heart. But the noise I created attracted several werewolves. Seeing this, I smiled and calculated, just enough to get myself to level 10. So I eliminated all these werewolves. Sure enough, my level reached 10. The system announced that the shop was now open, and simultaneously issued me a hidden mission. Then I took out that bottle of angel's blood. This item was the key to triggering the hidden mission. I didn't hesitate for a moment, and decisively chose to use it. The next second, the angel's blood transformed into Death God Rune. This signified that I had completed my class change. Subsequently, the system rewarded me with an exclusive Death God Scythe, as well as a professional skill called Death Mark. However, I was already very familiar with these items. Next, I spent 20,000 gold coins to buy a tracking skill, and directly cast the skill on Young Min, who held a grudge against me. To my surprise, this guy wasn't far from me at all. I could go observe him secretly first. Meanwhile, the female celebrity and her companion were desperately fleeing for their lives, but he was injured and exhausted, unable to move. At this time, Young Min pursued them from behind, arrogantly telling the female celebrity to obediently serve them. Antek understood they couldn't escape, and drew his short blade, preparing for a final battle. Suddenly, I emerged from behind the trees and interrupted them. But Young Min just waved his hand, telling me to get lost immediately, or he'd deal with me as well. I didn't waste words with this idiot, and directly summoned my Death God Scythe, informing Young Min that these two people couldn't be touched. Everything I was doing wasn't out of misplaced compassion, but because saving Antaik would earn Jin Woo's favor, which would yield extremely high returns. There was also another fact, that I simply couldn't stand Young Min. This loser. He was so frightened by my aura that cold sweat poured down, but I had no intention of letting him go, showing a disdainful smile while continuously provoking him. Young Min was completely enraged by my words. Although he had seen me instantly kill goblins before, after going through the baptism of the first trial, Young Min's strength had undergone a qualitative leap. Even walls couldn't withstand his single punch. This undoubtedly gave him tremendous confidence. He even fantasized about beating me up, so he rubbed his fists together and walked toward me. I just smiled disdainfully and asked where his confidence came from. The next second, I instantly vanished from my original position, fiercely kicking Young Min in the abdomen, directly sending him flying dozens of meters away. Then I grabbed him and pulled him up, instantly throwing dozens of punches at his face. But just as I was about to deliver the final blow, an arrow suddenly attacked, which I quickly dodged by bending down with ease. The archer was shocked that my reaction was actually this fast, and that all attacks were unable to hit me immediately. I no longer gave these ants any opportunity, decisively drawing my death god scythe and eliminating the remaining few people in one sweep. But I didn't take their lives. Next, I found young Min, who was hiding, and resolutely severed his arm. The intense pain made him wail continuously, but I coldly told young Min to shut up. Compared to the pain you've given me, this is nothing. After I finished dealing with those scumbags, the female celebrity and her companion hurriedly bowed to thank me for saving their lives. But Antek was puzzled why I hadn't eliminated them completely. I showed an appreciative expression. Indeed, Jinwoo and his subordinates were all well suited for this game, so I began to explain. Reducing the population had no benefits, because that would decrease the number of people who could complete missions. Antak admired that I had actually thought to that level, truly worthy of being the player who won first place. Afterwards, I bid them farewell and left. After all, I still needed to hurry and level up. At this time, the selection of regional representative had entered a heated phase. Everyone wanted to obtain supreme power for themselves. Some people even started fighting over it, until one burly man could no longer tolerate it, drew his short blade and killed a nearby player, threatening everyone that this would be their fate if they didn't vote for him. The crowd was indignant and cursed him as a murderer. But what they received in return was brutal slaughter. Choi Gang could see that everyone had fallen into panic. This continued, would vote for him out of fear, and when he became the regional representative, he could forcibly command me to die. Then he himself would be first place. While they were competing for regional representative, I had already reached level 16. And the experience I gained was becoming less and less. Fortunately, the voting time ended, and all players were summoned to the starting point. But just as I returned to the departure point, Choi Gang walked over menacingly. Perhaps the earlier slaughter had made him incredibly arrogant, actually demanding that I submit to him, and he would spare my life. I didn't waste words, and directly drew out my death god scythe. Choi Gang was so frightened by my exaggerated weapon that cold sweat poured down, realizing he had provoked the wrong person. But I suddenly told him to kneel down, and although Choi Gang was furious enough to grit his teeth, he still didn't dare to attack, and I had never made a move, precisely to let him become the regional representative, so that during the third round of the game, I could make use of him. Just at this moment, the angel appeared again. He gave everyone 5 minutes to vote. Those who failed to vote within that time would be eliminated. The survival instinct made everyone hurriedly open their windows, all choosing their voting targets. But even so, I gave up my qualification to become regional representative and handed this supreme power over to my opponent. Sure enough, when time was up, the angel announced that Jung Tai had been elected regional representative. Jung Tai immediately showed a triumphant smile, originally wanting to directly command me to die, but discovered that this ability was quite limited. Although he could forcibly control players, he could only use it 10 times, and couldn't use it on players who possessed professions. However, only Jung Tai could see this information. He could still use false authority to threaten all players. But just at this moment, the angel suddenly showed a mischievous smile, announced the regional representative's abilities to everyone. Youngtae was so angry his teeth itched, but didn't dare to rage at the angel. Then the angel laughed again. Actually, the second round had a hidden class change mission, but players needed to reach level 10 to trigger it. And the only player in this region who achieved this was me, as everyone cast envious glances my way. More importantly, I was the only one who could ignore the regional representative's commands. since I had once again achieved world first place. The angel gave me 2 additional rewards. I looked at the low-grade equipment selection ticket, and without hesitation chose leather armor. After all, plate armor was too cumbersome, and robes were too fragile. Leather armor was the best choice. As for the special reward, I decisively chose triple experience, because I knew very clearly that the 3rd round had numerous monsters. This excellent leveling opportunity couldn't be missed. After all, rewards were distributed. Everyone's souls were transported back to the real world. But after I returned, I didn't rest, because time was urgent. I had to first find that girl. She was not only one of the teammates I was looking for, but I desperately needed her abilities right now. Soon I arrived at a lottery shop. Sure enough, the owner looked troubled, because my consecutive lottery wins had caused all lottery sales to be suspended. Then I bowed to him in apology, and took out 10 million to give him as compensation. After doing all this, I directly turned around. The owner's daughter Julie thought she shouldn't accept unearned rewards, and prepared to return the money to me. But she didn't know this was all intentional on my part. The purpose was to make Julie develop favorable feelings toward me, so I could naturally make her my ally. After all, she possessed the powerful, unique profession of guardian. Julie recognized that we were classmates, but I pretended I had never seen her before, although I felt guilty inside. This way, Julie would become interested in me. Sure enough, after my series of maneuvers, I quickly added Julie as a friend. After I left, she realized the envelope hadn't been returned. Julie's heart was fluttering, feeling this was an opportunity given by heaven, so she prepared to ask me out for dinner. Subsequently, we grew closer to each other at the restaurant. She even revealed her abilities to me. It was a type of buff that could enhance all attributes, with an amplification reaching 50%. I looked at the attribute panel and praised her repeatedly. This is truly incredible. At this time, my purpose was finally achieved, because the random gold pouch I obtained in the first round, though the yield was random, luck would affect the gold coin output, and Julie's buff would undoubtedly maximize the benefits. Just then, she took out a glowing item and gave it to me. I was somewhat surprised that she actually had this thing. After leaving the restaurant and saying goodbye to Julie, I hurriedly opened my system panel. This item was called a magic crystal, although I couldn't use it currently. Once I reached level 20, I would know just how rare it was, simply because when players reached level 20, they would unlock the combination function, which allowed magic crystals to be embedded in weapons, making them gain various attributes. And magic crystals came in 7 different colors, but the rarest among them was the purple crystal, because it could enhance all attributes, which other crystals couldn't do. At this time, I took out a small box containing 100 insects, then threw it on the ground in a corner, crushing them to death and triggering the slaughter. Runes attribute increase of 100%. With Julie's buff and the runes double amplification, my luck value was now extremely high. Next, I took out the random money pouch from my inventory, and couldn't wait to open it. But the next second, my eyes widened in shock. It actually reached the maximum amount of 99999 gold coins. Seeing this, I couldn't help but laugh out loud. After all, this was something I had never encountered in my 99 rebirth. So many gold coins should be enough for me to buy epic level equipment. Soon I returned home and opened the shop, then selected a powerful epic level necklace. Most importantly, it was affordable enough. Truly excellent value for money, and I still had a 50% discount coupon. After buying it, I still had 14,000 gold coins left. I originally wanted to buy a set of ordinary equipment, but thinking carefully, the 3rd round didn't have much danger. It would be better to save these gold coins for now. Once I saved up to 20,000, I could buy a skill. After all, equipment was easy to find, but skills were hard to come by. Fortunately, the next round had many monsters. It wouldn't take long to earn 6,000 gold coins. Soon the 3rd round of the game began. Players were gradually transported in. The unfamiliar environment made everyone look tense, and the strange crystal in the town center left everyone even more puzzled. Just at this moment, the angel suddenly appeared out of thin air, and actually announced a terrifying rule facing the system mission issued by the Holy Angel. All players fell into endless panic. Mission rules: protect the sacred relic for 3 hours without it being destroyed. Successful protection advances 1,925 people, but the number of participants in this mission was as high as 4,900, which meant this round would eliminate 3/4 of the players. Faced with such cruel competition rules, players angrily denounced the unfairness, but the angel wasn't indulging their bad temper. What's unfair about it? All rounds of the game have had these same rules. Sometimes you should look for reasons within yourselves. After all this time, have you worked hard to level up? Have you upgraded your equipment? Then the Holy Angel began announcing the competition rules. Every 30 minutes, monsters would launch an assault on the sacred relic. Your mission is to protect the sacred relic from being destroyed. If the sacred relic is destroyed, you will receive severe punishment. Successfully completing the mission will rank you according to the number of monsters killed. Top 1 to 250 rankings live. After 1 to 250, then death. Although this round has many monsters, their attributes will be weakened by 2/3. At the same time, experience and gold coins will also be reduced. Regional representative Choi Gang immediately saw through the gameplay. Isn't this just about who kills the most monsters? He possessed mandatory command authority. This round would be easy to handle, but the angel's next statement threw him into an endless abyss. The regional representative can use mandatory command authority this round, but if the representative accidentally dies or is killed by monsters, the position will remain vacant. But if killed by a player, the killer will immediately inherit the representative position. The 10 command users will refresh completely, hearing these words. 4,000 pairs of cold, sinister eyes turned in unison toward Choigang, facing 4,000 pairs of predatory stares. Choigang's body trembled uncontrollably, but only I, who had been reborn 99 times, knew the sinister nature beneath the angel's hypocritical mask. Watching as 4,000 armed people surrounded Choigang, I walked calmly to Choigang's side. Don't be afraid. I'm not here to kill you. Choigang, trying to maintain his composure, couldn't help but question what I wanted to do. I can protect your life from threats, but the prerequisite is that you must obey my every word. As soon as these words were spoken, the scene fell into dead silence. All players stared wide-eyed with disbelief, but faced with the hope of survival and gang reputation, Choigang, driven by his pride, chose to refuse. But I had already anticipated all of this. Next, what I needed to do was distance myself from Choigang. Well then, from now on, your life and death have nothing to do with me. Players all mocked Choigang. Was it worth losing his life for so-called dignity? After getting my definitive answer, players no longer suppressed their restless hearts, just as players were preparing to make their move. The system prompted. The first wave of monsters is about to launch an attack. Please prepare yourselves, players. Taking advantage of the players' confusion, Choigang hurriedly escaped from the crowd. I also allowed him to follow behind me all the way. When he saw me arrive alone at the monster spawn point, he broke out in a cold sweat from behind, facing the endless goblins. I gently wielded my death god scythe. As the red blade swept across, the goblins ahead instantly turned into scattered remains. Then I leaped forward and charged toward the goblin army. Such terrifying strength made Choigang, who had followed, tremble with fear. He couldn't waste time anymore. He also needed to hurry and level up. Just as Choigang was about to kill a goblin, suddenly an arrow flew toward his forehead. Fortunately, he dodged, even though this arrow only grazed past him. While Choigang looked confused, after wondering when goblins started using bows and arrows, a player wielding a long spear suddenly thrust toward his back. Choigang, realizing what was happening, endured the severe pain and pulled out the spear. Then he pulled hard, dragging the killer's body straight into the dagger in Choigang's hand. Then he raised the spear in his hand and thrust with force, directly hitting the archer's face. This scene immediately made the originally predatory players stop their small movements, and among the crowd-fighting monsters, a burly man caught his attention. Hook Ryong ranked 3rd on the regional leaderboard. Choigang immediately activated his mandatory command ability without hesitation. From now on, you're responsible for protecting me. Facing thousands upon thousands of goblin armies, the man drew his death god scythe and swung it gently. Blood-red killing aura instantly tore through the goblins' bodies. With the death of the last goblin, I also reached level 20, successfully unlocking the Death Knight skill, and obtained the Death God Axe. Death Knight could turn a 500-meter radius into nighttime. Those wielding the Death God Axe would have their attack power doubled during the day, and attack speed increased by 50% at night. While I was in a daze, another wave of goblins suddenly attacked. Experience points delivered right to my door. There was no reason to refuse them. Death Knight. In an instant, all creatures were shrouded in darkness. Sanctuary under the Knight's shroud echoed with the goblins' wails. All that awaited them was merciless harvesting. After completing the 3rd wave of goblins, I finally saved up the required 20,000 gold coins. To prepare for the upcoming emergencies, I didn't hesitate to first purchase a reconnaissance skill. This skill could scout targets within 300 meters nearby. Meanwhile, on the other side, Choigang was controlling 10 players to protect himself. As long as he could hold on for 1 more hour, he would survive and complete the mission. But with the arrival of the 4th wave of monsters, his sweet dream was about to be shattered. The 4th wave monsters had not only become powerful werewolves, their numbers were also 10 times that of the survivors. Just as Choigang was focused on resisting the werewolf assault, players coveting his position suddenly turned against him. And for survival, Choigang forcibly controlled others to serve as human shields. Finally, under the protection of human shields, he barely managed to escape and run to me. I'm willing to be your subordinate. Please protect me. I unhesitatingly refused to the now powerless Choigang, who had used up his control. Adults should pay the price for their choices. At this moment, Choigang was filled with regret, all because of his damned pride. Seeing Choigang's pitiful state, everyone couldn't help but gloat. Weren't you tough before? How come you're soft now? Just then, Gunho pushed away the loudmouthed player. Seeing this, hope rekindled in the heart-dead Choigang. Gunho, as long as we get out alive, you'll be the gang's second in command. Bang. Gunho punched Choigang square in the face. Who the hell wants to be second when they can be the boss? With Gunho's final punch landing, Gold System voice also rang out. Kunho successfully killed Regional Representative Choigang. Now inherits the Regional Representative position and may exercise Regional Representative authority. At this moment, Kunho's heart was incredibly excited. With mandatory command authority, he could make the female celebrity do whatever he wanted. Then Kunho smugly approached me, asking me to accept him as a subordinate and protect him. But his attitude made me extremely disgusted. Want to be my subordinate. Then kneel and repeat what you just said, looking at the wolf-like players behind him. Kunho chose without hesitation to grovel and survive. Please let me be your subordinate. I'm begging you. Seeing everything proceeding according to my plan, I coldly warned everyone. No one is allowed to harm Kunho. Having witnessed my terrifying strength, everyone could only reluctantly leave. Seeing the 4th wave assault nearing its end, I couldn't help but sigh inwardly. If the game ended like this, it would be such a waste. Then I looked at the fearless Kunho beside me, ordering him to control others to destroy the sacred relic they were guarding. Hearing this, Kunho was shocked, because the angel had said, if the sacred relic was destroyed, there would be severe punishment. But faced with punishment versus death, he could only choose punishment. Not daring to disobey my orders, Kunho pleaded to keep one use of his control authority, but I completely ignored him, directly calling out 10 people's names. These 10 were all his friends, facing his friends. Kunho callously used his control authority on them. Then the 10 people took advantage of the chaos to attack the sacred relic. The players who realized what was happening raised their blades and charged toward the controlled ones, but it was ultimately too late. Accompanied by the harsh sound of shattering, all players received notification that the sacred relic was destroyed. Mission failed. Punisher will appear in 30 minutes. Players who received this message all fell into panic, but I showed a long-lost smile. The real game was just beginning, facing the Holy Angel's kind reminder. I dismissed it with hostility, because only I knew the sinister cunning beneath his angelic exterior. As the controlled group destroyed the sacred relic and received punishment notifications from the angel, players fell into panic, but I smiled with the corner of my mouth raised, showing a long-lost grin, because this was the only chance to obtain a divine artifact. Suddenly a system message rang out. Players who shattered the sacred relic will be cursed by God. Tributes permanently decreased by 50%. At the same time, the regional representative, as the primary responsible party, will also have attributes permanently decreased by 50%. This was why I refused to become regional representative. After all, permanent attribute reduction meant facing death. Meanwhile, the system message rang out again. Successfully surviving 30 minutes under God's punishment will earn a 3,000 gold coin reward. Hearing this news, players became extremely excited. Just surviving another 30 minutes would yield greater returns than protecting the sacred relic. Facing the punishment angel that was about to appear, I had to make thorough preparations. With my current funds, I could only first purchase a set of beginner equipment, then use the embedding function to embed magic crystals in every piece of equipment. Although beginner equipment and low-grade crystal enhancement were limited, even slight improvements were extremely important. Just as I completed my pre-battle preparations, terrifying pressure swept across the entire field. All players' faces were filled with panic, but I knew the terror of the punishment angel even better. In my previous life, even 5 level 40 players couldn't contend with him, but in this life, at only level 20, I planned to face the punishment angel head-on. Because after killing the angel, I'd obtained the Angel Slayer title. This title dealt double damage to divine creatures. I had to seize this opportunity to defeat the punishment angel, thereby obtaining the best rewards. As the sky was torn apart by blazing golden light, a figure bathed in radiance slowly descended. Looking at the punishment angel's benevolent face, the players' tense emotions gradually subsided. Angels are so kind, surely they wouldn't ruthlessly kill us. But as the punishment angel descended, his divine domain slowly spread in all directions. The hopeful players came to their senses and discovered they were already trapped within the domain. At this moment, the 300 players were utterly desperate. Then the punishment angel spread his wings, summoning countless blades to begin the slaughter. In that instant, none of the 300 players were spared. But I took this opportunity to secretly circle behind the angel, waiting for the barrier to dissipate while looking for my chance. Moments later, seeing the barrier beginning to fade, I grabbed my Death God scythe and leaped up. I wasn't worried about being discovered by the angel, because I knew clearly that angels had no ears, just as my attack was about to land. I directly released Death God's edge, increasing damage to the target by 120%. When the angel sensed the anomaly behind him, it was already too late. Death God's scythe pierced fiercely into his eye. The single strike dealt 40% of his health. While he wailed in agony, I quickly pulled back, seeking another opportunity. The angel released a barrier trying to trap me, but just 1 second before the barrier closed, I successfully escaped the coverage area. If the angel's barrier failed to trap anyone, the skill would fail. Taking this opportunity, I circled behind him again, and with my blade took away his other eye. The angel endured the excruciating pain and let out a shriek, releasing a barrier to trap me. Although attributes would be weakened by 50% within the barrier, I wasn't panicked at all. In my eyes, he was just a punching bag. The blinded angel directly summoned light swords, preparing for omnidirectional strikes, but at such close distance, I wouldn't give him any chance. Death Knight instantly shrouded the light, unable to overcome darkness. This was the law of the world. The man's first kill inheriting Death God's power was actually against the angel race's punishment angel. Just moments ago, punishment angel released countless light swords, conducting indiscriminate slaughter on the crowd. This inhumane scene completely enraged me. Then I took advantage of the chaos to circle behind him, wielding the Death God scythe and leaping up, fiercely piercing the Death God scythe into his eye. The already deaf punishment angel had now also become blind. His eyes were filled with killing intent, raising his staff to release countless light swords again for indiscriminate slaughter. Seeing this scene, I once again silently circled behind him, raising the Death God scythe to sever his wings. The punishment angel reacted and stopped casting. His staff swept across, but I easily dodged it. Immediately after, I leapt up, reaching the punishment angel's right side. The Death God scythe struck downward, severing his other wing. Looking at the punishment angel with only 10% health remaining, I didn't rush to strike, instead leaping backward, quickly creating distance. The next second, the punishment angel blazed like a scorching sun, bursting forth with dazzling holy light. System notification. The dying punishment angel released passive skill, Final Radiance, immune to damage for 60 seconds. At the same time, punishment angel summoned dark elements, once again executing omnidirectional sweeping attacks. But I, who already knew everything, stood at a safe distance waiting for the right moment. As time passed, the punishment angel used all his strength in frenzied counterattacks, trying to kill me. But ultimately it was futile. The moment the radiance faded, he sensed a killing intent rapidly approaching. Before the punishment angel could turn around, I swung my scythe and fiercely severed his head. Congratulations, you have successfully defeated the punishment angel. Level increased by 3. Rewarded 8,000 gold coins. Based on performance, additional reward of 4,000 gold coins. As the first player to defeat the punishment angel, you are granted the title of Divine Rebel. Title additional effect. Reduces damage from divine creatures by 80%. Also rewarding you with Condensed Godstone and Radiance Divine Rune. Condensed Godstone can enhance equipment level, while the Radiance Divine Rune's effect is, each level gained, increases intelligence by 1 point and skill damage by 1%. At this moment I had reached level 30. Due to the Radiance Divine Rune's amplification, intelligence directly increased by 30 points, damage also increased by 30%. This was why I had to kill the punishment. Angel. Meanwhile, all players also received system rewards. The entire venue burst into enthusiastic cheers, but some players also showed resentful expressions. This guy's so strong. Why did he make us scapegoats? As a ray of light dispelled the gloom, the angel descended once again. He marveled that my strength was actually so formidable, able to single-handedly defeat the punishment angel. But what puzzled him was why I didn't wait for the mission to clear, but chose to kill the punishment angel instead. Hearing these words, I answered without hesitation, watching helplessly as my fellow humans were slaughtered. Yet you ask me why I didn't stay out of it. I can only say that I couldn't do it. This answer completely shocked the players present. They originally thought he was selfish, an arrogant freak, but it turned out he was the hero who saved us. For a moment, all players' emotions were deeply overwhelmed by guilt. The cold-blooded, merciless angel still couldn't understand human thinking. Players who had just been at each other's throats were now coexisting peacefully as if nothing had happened. Just when players thought everything was over, the angel announced cruel news. Now announcing the contribution leaderboard. Top 200 ranked players. Qualified to survive. Regional first place, Black Scythe. Killed 3,631 monsters. Second place, Foolish Idiot. Third place, Cheonma. This region's first place, Black Scythe. Second place, Antaik. Third place, SEO Ariong. Seeing that I'd reached level 30, players looked incredulous. Is he really level 30? Did I hear wrong? But how could someone who only knew about completing system missions know about the experience bonus special effects for regional first place? Meanwhile, system rewards also began distributing. System reward. 1 ultimate ring. You may choose one from Wind Ring, Magic Ring, and Resistance Ring. I chose without hesitation the seemingly inconspicuous Resistance Ring, even though I wouldn't need it for some time. I had to prepare in advance, because I knew if I missed the Resistance Ring today, there would be absolutely no possibility of obtaining it later. Resistance Ring. Luck applied for. Abnormal status resistance increased by 35%. Subsequently, the system began distributing rewards for regional first place. 4th round 50% experience bonus, 4,000 gold coin reward. 4th round intelligence as a reborn person. I was very familiar with missions and storylines, so intelligence was of little use to me. Thus, I decisively chose the 4,000 gold coins. At this time, the angel smiled sinisterly. Everyone is clear about their rankings now. 200 is the minimum passing line. Those players who didn't reach the passing line immediately panicked. They helplessly cried out for one more chance, but the angel paid no attention. You pets who didn't reach the passing line, let me represent the moon to eliminate you. As soon as the words fell, thousands of substandard players were instantly consumed by flames. Watching the players gradually disappearing, the girl trembled all over in fear. As players dissipated, the air filled with an unbearable burning smell. At this time, the system announced the 3rd round was over. The 4th round would begin on April 1st. With a buzzing sound, Seo Rayong's consciousness suddenly returned to her body. She sat up abruptly, as if awakening from a dream. This survival filled her with great joy, because in the 3rd round, she had successfully changed class to become a summoner. With the assistance of summoned creatures, her ranking successfully entered 3rd place in the region. Seo Abyong looked at the rewards distributed by the system, her heart filled with anticipation. If she gave it to Black Scythe, would he like it? Facing the deadly threat of the Death God Scythe, the man didn't hesitate to kneel and beg for mercy, even commanding 10 brothers who had shared life and death with him to destroy the sacred relic protected by 5,000 people, because only I knew that those who destroyed the sacred relic would face irreversible punishment. Kun Ho had just returned to the real world. When he was startled by urgent phone ringing, on the other end of the phone, a man immediately launched into a tirade of curses. You piece of trash. Actually harming your own brothers. You're really not human. Kun Ho helplessly explained that in that situation, if I didn't obey Black Scythe's commands, I would die. But the man wouldn't listen at all. Rather than causing trouble for friends, you might as well just go die. The aggrieved Kun Ho angrily retorted. My attributes also dropped by 50%. I'm also a victim. But what came from the other end was still cursing. If it weren't for you coveting the regional representative position, none of this would have happened. You damned traitor. And watch your tone when you speak, or I'll tear your face apart. Kun Ho was about to argue back, but the phone had already hung up. On the other side, and Sang Chul came to Cheon Ma's company to report the situation. When Cheon Ma learned that he and Seo Aryong had successfully advanced out, he expressed great relief, and asked about his current level and profession. When Cheon Ma learned that Seo Aryong had changed class to become a summoner, he felt incredibly surprised. After all, the summoner profession was extremely rare. This was also the key to An Sang Chul and their survival in the 3rd round. Simply because the spirit summoned by Seo Aryong released powerful magic, which helped them pass smoothly. After hearing the report, Cheon Ma smiled slightly. Continue maintaining close relations with Seo Aryong. You could even try dating her. Hearing this, An Sang Chul shuddered all over. What do you mean by this? Cheon Ma smiled coldly. Sometimes what defeats the strong isn't a powerful enemy, but the closest person beside them. But when mentioning the Death God Scythe, An Sang Chul bowed apologetically. You asked me to help Death God Scythe, but I couldn't do it. You asked me to convey your message, but I couldn't deliver it either. Subsequently, An Sang Chul recounted everything that happened in the 3rd round. Cheon Ma immediately fell into deep thought. Death God Scythe is simply too powerful. It felt like he could somehow predict the future, originally thinking that with his Dark Knight rune, he was already powerful enough. But Death God Scythe's strength far exceeded his expectations. Subsequently, An Sang Chul's expression grew serious as he inquired whether they had found the person who had targeted Seo Aryong back then. An Sang Chul indicated they had some leads. The game ID was the same as the real name. There were about 20 suspects nationwide, but if they narrowed it down to the province, only 5 suspects remained. However, to find the addresses of these 5 people would still take another month. Cheon Ma estimated that they'd probably have to wait until after the 4th round ended to get results, but he still wasn't at ease, therefore instructing An Sang Chul to quickly gather 20,000 gold coins to purchase Draken runes in the game shop. Subsequently, An Sang Chul continued reporting that, a month ago, someone had been buying large quantities of their company's stock. Now he already held 31% of the shares. Hearing this, Cheon Ma fell into silence. The company's market value was approximately 900 billion won. Holding 31% of shares was equivalent to investing 280 billion. Just who was behind this scheme? Could it be that good big brother of his? Immediately, Cheon Ma instructed An Sang Chul to look up the major shareholders' contact information. He wanted to meet the major shareholder personally, and at this moment, I, who had purchased large quantities of Cheon Ma's stock while waiting for Cheon Ma's call, didn't forget to persuade my girlfriend to break up with me, Zewa, with a bang. The door was pushed open by Baek Yang. He was shouting, "Big brother, what level are you now?" simply because his classmates bragged to him every day that his brother had not only reached level 11, but had also changed classes to avoid disappointing my little brother. I could only tell him that I was one level higher than his classmate's brother. After all, with my current strength, if people with ulterior motives found out, it might pose a threat to my little brother. But even so, Baek Yang was still overjoyed. "Big brother, you're amazing. Now I can brag at school too." As soon as my naive little brother left, my phone rang. Cheon Ma politely expressed that he wanted to invite me, this major shareholder, to dinner on Friday. But Friday was the day when the mind rune would appear. I directly had him change the time to Saturday. Seeing everything proceeding according to plan, I couldn't help but show a slight smile. My meeting with Cheon Ma would start with obtaining that rune. Runes were an important way to enhance death god abilities, and there were many ways to obtain runes, generally by killing monsters or completing missions. But in the real world, there was an even more convenient method. Just after agreeing on a time with Cheon Ma, I hurriedly came to an abandoned warehouse. Taking advantage of the faint moonlight, I quietly hid behind the pillar on the second floor, waiting for his appearance. He had once kidnapped my little brother, threatening me to reveal hidden intelligence. Initially, I thought Jang Hee-hyun was just an ordinary awakener, and planned to casually deceive him. But Jang Hee-hyun mocked me for being too naive, actually trying to fool a man who possessed the mind rune. But when he learned through the mind rune that I was reborn, his face showed an expression of both shock and joy. Ultimately, in the battle with him, I only managed to survive by sacrificing my left eye. My revenge against him began from the 10th rebirth. Nearly hundreds of acts of revenge meant I didn't hate him anymore. But after each rebirth, I would still rush to kill him, before the tragedy occurred, seizing the mind rune for myself. At this time, Jang Hee-hyun was selecting targets on the street again. Soon a girl walking toward him caught his attention. Then he followed behind the girl all the way. When the girl entered a deserted alley, Jang Hee-hyun directly flashed in front of the girl, releasing the flash rune. The girl instantly became like someone hit by welding light, temporarily losing her vision. In the quiet alley echoed the woman's miserable cries. Everything he did was purely to satisfy his sense of achievement in doing whatever he pleased, and the origin of this evil was after he obtained the flash rune in the game. The seeds of evil in his heart rapidly sprouted. He wanted to be a lawless maniac who could act recklessly without taking responsibility. But brief passion couldn't quell his restless heart, so he decided to buy an iced latte to cool down. But the cute face of the server was like a flame, igniting him. So he decisively expressed his feelings to the server and asked for her phone number. But the server politely refused him, and even said she liked men who looked bad, not men who were bad. Hearing this, Jang Hee-hyun instantly exploded. Why should sincerity be let down? Is being ugly also a crime? "Give me back my money. I don't want it anymore." The server apologized tremblingly. While returning the money to Jang Hee-hyun snatched the money and walked out of the cafe cursing, "Disgusting woman! You despise me for being ugly, right? You look down on me, right? You'll pay the price for your blindness." After waiting for 2.5 hours, Jang Hee-hyun knocked out the server who had just gotten off work, then took her to the abandoned warehouse in the suburbs, facing a woman who looked down on him. He had no intention of showing mercy. Throwing the woman heavily to the ground, seeing the frightened server about to speak, Jang Hee-hyun tore off the tape while warning her not to scream. The server desperately begged Jang Hee-hyun to spare her. She would never judge people by their appearance again, but Jang Hee-hyun could tell at a glance that the server wasn't sincerely apologizing. In his embarrassed rage, he pushed the server down, preparing to force himself upon her. But just as he was about to take the next step, a dark shadow appeared outside the door. "Excuse me, can I borrow something from you?" A sudden voice startled him into a cold sweat. But when he turned around, saw the newcomer was actually a clown wearing a mask. He couldn't help but laugh out loud. "That scythe looks pretty cool. For the sake of the scythe, whatever you want, just say it." Hearing this, I swung my scythe lightly, accompanied by the whistling sound of the scythe cutting through air. I coldly told him, "Your life." Seeing this scene, Jang Hee-hyun trembled all over in fright. "Are you also a game player?" But I didn't pay attention to him, instead turning to tell the girl to leave quickly. But just as the server was about to leave, Jang Hee-hyun angrily shouted and stopped her again. Seeing this, I leaped forward, transforming into a shadow as I charged toward Jang Hee-hyun, while the scythe handle carried the force of 1,000 armies, striking like a golden dragon. A shattering sound rang out. The intense pain made Jang Hee-hyun's whole body tremble. He was completely broken. Immediately after, I reminded the girl again to leave quickly. The server ran toward the door while apologizing. Seeing the server leave, I stood towering over Jang Hee-hyun. Now it's just the two of us. You can show your true strength. The man possessed the flash rune representing light, yet engaged in despicable acts that angered both gods and men. The woman's cries echoed in the spacious warehouse, her eyes filled with fear and helplessness. She knelt humbly on the ground, hands clasped together, begging the man to spare her. "Please spare me. I will never judge people by appearance again." The woman's pitiful appearance not only failed to earn Jang Hee-hyun's sympathy, but made him even more excited. Jang Hee-hyun, immersed in his vile acts, didn't notice my arrival at all. "Hello, excuse me. Can I borrow something from you?" Having his mood disrupted, Jang Hee-hyun cursed angrily. "Borrow your mother's ass. If you're sick, go see a doctor. Can't you see I'm busy?" Hearing this, I chuckled coldly. "Your being busy is your business, but cursing at people is my business." Then I swung the death god's scythe in my hand. A shattering sound rang out. The intense pain made Jang Hee-hyun's whole body tremble. He was completely broken. Taking this opportunity, I told the girl to leave quickly. Having his mood ruined, Jang Hee-hyun flew into a rage. He grabbed a knife and stabbed toward me. Seeing this, I couldn't help but chuckle coldly. "You think you can fight? Fighting skills are useless here." This statement completely enraged Jang Hee-hyun. He attacked like a cornered beast, every move aimed at vital points. But my speed was extremely fast. While easily avoiding his attacks, I lightly swung my scythe, smoothly severing one of Jang Hee-hyun's arms. The speed was so fast that Jang Hee-hyun didn't feel anything at all. He stared in disbelief at his empty left hand. But I had no intention of stopping. Don't be surprised, the real show is just beginning. Under the dim lighting, my body gradually became ethereal, and a shadow swept past Jang Hee-hyun before Jang Hee-hyun could react. His floral shirt was already soaked with blood. He knew that if this continued, only death awaited him. To survive, Mum, he first had to escape from here. Jang Hee-hyun decisively activated his flash rune. Blinding white light burst forth from his body, instantly illuminating everything around. After only 2.5 seconds, the white light was suddenly swallowed by darkness. This scene shocked Jang Hee-hyun. What's happening? Why did my rune fail? Stop wasting your energy. Light can never defeat darkness. Under Death Knight, there will be no light whatsoever. Then I swung the Death God Scythe again, transforming into a shadow cutting through the night sky. Due to the extreme speed, Jang Hee-hyun had no time to react. With a thud, Jang Hee-hyun, having lost the support of both legs, collapsed to the ground. He looked terrified. We have no grudges. Why are you doing this to me? Because you're scum. While telling him the reason, I didn't forget to give him a few more strikes with the scythe. The pain made Jang Hee-hyun's expression twisted. He now only wanted to end his own life quickly. Suddenly he stuck out his tongue, preparing to bite it off. But I wouldn't give him the chance to commit suicide. Directly pressing the scythe against his jaw, death won't come that easily. Then I swung the scythe again, frantically slashing at his body. Jang Hee-hyun looked desperate, begging me to kill him, but I had no intention of fulfilling his wish. Are you curious? Why I'm treating you this way? Because you not only kidnapped my little brother, but also used it to threaten me into giving up rare intelligence, and even blinded one of my eyes. Tell me, shouldn't I kill you? After hearing all this, Jang Hee-hyun thought aggrievedly. I don't remember doing any of these things, because these are things that will happen in the future. It's normal that you don't remember. I came out early to deal with you, because once you get the mind rune hidden here, you'll go further and further down. Path of crime. Countless women will also fall victim to your hands. Hearing this, Jang Hee-hyun's mouth twitched with anger. You're blaming me for things that haven't even happened. That's going too far. Having said this, he again attempted to bite his tongue, accompanied by Jang Hee-hyun's agonized wails. The mind rune was successfully activated. The moment Jang Hee-hyun desperately sought death, I shoved the scythe handle into his mouth. As Jang Hee-hyun's fear intensified, the mind rune also began to take effect. Mind rune can read the inner thoughts of targets before you. At this moment, Jang Hee-hyun was utterly desperate. I don't know him at all. Why is he treating me this way? He's already obtained the mind rune. Why won't he just kill me? Hearing Jang Hee-hyun's inner voice, I chuckled coldly. I won't kill you, because I want to use you to test the mind rune. Immediately after, Jang Hee-hyun's inner thoughts transmitted into my mind again. You've gotten what you wanted now. You can kill me now, right? I won't let you die that easily, because those girls you victimized were too wronged. Hearing this, Jang Hee-hyun coughed dryly, and actually died of anger from not catching his breath. Seeing this scene, I was also speechless. Then I immediately activated the newly purchased cleansing rune. This skill could clean corpses, bloodstains, fingerprints, footprints, and other traces. A green fire instantly engulfed Jang Hee-hyun. Then he turned to dust and scattered away. Now that I had the mind rune, I looked forward even more to tomorrow's meeting with the strongest Dark Knight. First thing the man did upon his rebirth was actually to spend all his savings buying lottery tickets, and all the tickets had the same set of numbers. But I wasn't satisfied with just a few $100 billion in prize money. So I impulsively invested all the prize money into the stock market, buying shares of a stock about to skyrocket. In just 2.5 days, this few $100 billion in prize money had multiplied several times. But my ambitions didn't stop there. Then I took these few $1,000 billion and bought all Cheonmar Group stocks. This made me leap to become a major shareholder, holding 30% of Cheonmar Group's shares. And today was the day I had arranged to meet with Cheonmar. My little brother saw me in my sharp black suit and actually thought I was going to pick up girls. Hearing this, I was speechless. You're already in college. Stop thinking about dating and picking up girls all day, okay? My brother looked confused. We already have hundreds of billions. If we're not dating and picking up girls, are we supposed to go work? Hearing my brother's words, I smiled inadvertently. Work. I'll never work in this lifetime. But being a boss and investing is still possible. My brother's body trembled. Bro, you haven't fallen for a scam group, have you? I already knew my brother's thoughts well. Compared to money, my brother was more worried about my safety. But now wasn't the time to explain. I just told my brother to wait for good news from me, and instructed him not to go out unless necessary, simply because the law could no longer restrain those awakeners. Criminals who awakened in prison had already broken free from constraints. Now as players gradually grew stronger, existing systems could no longer serve a restraining function. In the not-so-distant future, society's order would be completely overturned. Ordinary people would either become targets for hunting, or slaves manipulated by players. I had to appear before everyone with overwhelming advantage, before ordinary people became slaves. 2.5 minutes later, I arrived at the 5-star hotel I had arranged to meet Cheonmar at. And the behind-the-scenes owner of this hotel was actually Cheonmar. But besides me, the only people who knew this were Cheonmar's relatives. So I had to make good use of this intelligence. However, before meeting with him, I had to pretend to be naive first. After stammering through my explanation to the front desk, I was directly arranged by the receptionist in the waiting area. Facing the considerate receptionist, I also displayed the shy inferiority of someone visiting a high-end hotel for the first time. After the receptionist left, I continued to act as if I was like Granny Lou entering the Grand View Garden, full of curiosity about everything, looking up at the crystal chandelier hanging from the ceiling at a 45-degree angle. With wise eyes and a half-open mouth, anyone could tell at a glance. This was a poor loser who had never seen the world. Just as I was spacing out, a man walked up to me. The person was none other than Sang-chul. The moment our eyes met, we both seemed somewhat awkward, though mine was feigned awkwardness, and Sang-chul expressed that he hadn't expected me to be the neighbor from before, and had only regarded me as Seo El-ryong's obsessive fan. Then he bowed deeply to apologize. I apologized for my attitude toward you last time, but Sang-chul was very puzzled in his heart. How could a young man under 20 possibly be the major shareholder who invested 280 billion? Everything Sang-chul was thinking was being listened to by the mind rune, but I still deliberately showed a surprised expression. There's nothing to apologize for. After all, we didn't know each other then, Chairman. Shall we talk about cooperation first? and Sangchul hurriedly waved his hands, indicating that he was just an employee. Chairman would arrive a bit later. I'm here to receive you on behalf of the chairman first. Please sit down. I'll go instruct the waiters. And he took this opportunity to send a message to Cheon-ma. He told Cheon-ma that I was so young, probably couldn't come up with that much money, and was definitely being manipulated by someone behind the scenes, reminding Cheon-ma to be careful. But all these actions couldn't escape my grasp. 2.5 minutes later, Cheon-ma arrived fashionably late. He did this entirely to assert dominance, telling me that he was the actual controller of Cheon-ma. Facing this rich second generation with natural protagonist aura, I deliberately acted submissive and timid, shaking hands with him. Then he had and Sangchul sit down and dine together, wanting to show that in his eyes. There was no difference between me and a subordinate. Through his preliminary observation of me, Cheon-ma was certain I was a naive college student, so he beckoned the waiters to bring up various exotic delicacies. Cheon-ma watched me wolfing down the food, and could confirm I was definitely not from a wealthy family, and also didn't look like someone who could independently come up with 280 billion. Then there was only one conclusion. The person behind me must be a relative from the family. No matter who that person was, he would investigate thoroughly. Thinking of this, Cheon-ma put down his chopsticks, asking how I could have such achievements at such a young age, whether I had family helping me. I already knew his inner thoughts, but still stammered, I just turned 20. That's not exactly young anymore. This money was all earned through my own efforts. A glint flashed in Cheon-ma's eyes. You're only 20. Even if you started making money from age 1, it would be impossible to earn hundreds of billions by your own ability. Seeing the fish had taken the bait, I said somewhat naively, I'm not that amazing to start making money from age 1. My first bucket of gold should have started a few days ago. Then I told the two of them. I was the one from the recent news report who spent hundreds of thousands on one set of lottery numbers. Hearing this, even these two who had seen great storms couldn't help but be somewhat surprised. Then Cheon-ma said, prize money was only a few hundred billion, but your purchase of Cheon-ma Group shares was 281 billion. So I told them again, a stock I bought skyrocketed, and I directly made over 300 billion. At this moment, Cheon-ma began to doubt life. People really can drive you to death with comparisons. You're probably trading lifespan for luck points. Seeing the big fish had taken the bait, I just needed to use a small trick. President Ma, you're exaggerating. I'm just relying on skill. And Sangchul responded perfunctorily, you're right. Luck is also a manifestation of skill. But I told him this wasn't luck, but genuine real skill. I'm a player selected by the system for the game. And in the game, I obtained a future rune. This rune allows me to foresee future events. You could say, I'm that prophet who can predict the future. Man, being a reborn person, yet claimed to be a prophet. But the two who learned this secret were deeply skeptical, thinking I was making fun of them. Are you joking with us? But this joke isn't funny at all. Facing their doubts, I chuckled lightly. Are we that close? That I would joke with you? Hearing me say this, and Sangchul looked somewhat embarrassed. So your previous lottery breakthrough and crazy stock market harvesting was using the future rune. I nodded slightly to confirm, otherwise under normal circumstances. What kind of person do you think could escape unscathed from these two situations? But Cheon-ma still maintained a skeptical attitude. These two things would indeed be extremely difficult for ordinary people. But for people on another level, it would be effortless. Could you demonstrate your abilities to prove it? Like what I'm going to do next? But Cheon-ma's little schemes had already been seen through by me. However, for future considerations, I needed to add some limitations to the future rune's abilities. Then I told Cheon-ma the future rune's ability couldn't be actively triggered. His request was something I simply couldn't fulfill. Learning this condition, Cheon-ma also felt relieved. Such a powerful rune, having trigger conditions was very reasonable. But suddenly he seemed to realize something. Your 280 billion investment wouldn't also be because of this reason, would it? I nodded in agreement with Cheon-ma's statement, and told him the reason I invested this money was because I foresaw Cheon-ma Group's rapid future development. Hearing this news, Cheon-ma curiously asked me what degree the group would develop to. I said casually, within half a year it should enter the national top 100. Learning this news, Cheon-ma trembled all over, thinking to himself that if what I said was true, then he could not only gain family recognition, but might even be directly appointed as heir. But soon Cheon-ma calmed down. He was really living backwards, getting excited over something of unknown truth. But my next statement completely angered and Sangchul to President Ma. For you to succeed, you must change industries. And Sangchul angrily slammed the table. Just based on your one sentence, you want us to change industries. Why don't you say we should change the company name too? Hearing this, I hurriedly agreed. You're right. If we're changing industries, the company name should indeed be changed. Now, and Sangchul couldn't sit still. Mr. Rao, your joking should have limits. Facing their suspicions, I chuckled coldly. Do you think I'm that idle? Coming all this way, just to joke with you? We're all participants in the game. You should also be clear. They're casually revealing one's talents will face what kind of risks, but I still took the risk to tell you about my abilities, because I want you to become my business partner. As and I will from this moment participate in company management and operations as a major shareholder, making the company develop and grow rapidly. But this still couldn't dispel their doubts. To dispel their doubt, I directly revealed several Cheon-ma's unknown secrets. This 5-star hotel we're currently in is one of your hidden properties, isn't it? As the eldest son of the 5-star group, you're not valued by the family. To gain your father's recognition, you secretly established this company. But Sangchul didn't give me a chance to continue. He angrily questioned me about who was really behind me, because only people within the family knew this information. Although Cheon-ma was displeased, he also agreed with Sangchul's statement. Based on this alone, Okam, you not only can't gain my trust, I even have reason to suspect you're a trap set by someone within the family. Furthermore, even if you are a major shareholder, I couldn't possibly make the entire company change industries just because of one sentence from you. In any case, I'm very grateful for your investment, but the issues you've raised, we should still vote on at the shareholders' meeting. Having said all this, Cheon-ma prepared to get up and leave. But how could I let him leave so easily? If I told you intelligence about the 4th round, would you still think I was deceiving you? As soon as these words were spoken, both men instantly lost their previous composure and dignity. I only needed 2.5 minutes to make the originally aloof domineering CEO smile so widely he couldn't close his mouth. But Sangchul still harbored concerns. Since Mr. Ryu can predict the future, he could completely live the best life possible. So why would he still choose to invest in our company? But Cheonma said, whether it's for money or power. Human greed is endless. Don't use your perspective to speculate about his thoughts. If he really possesses prophetic abilities, I will spare no effort to have him on my side. Just imagine, if we could obtain intelligence before every round of the game begins, what a wonderful thing that would be. And Sang-chul wanted to say something more but was stopped by Cheon-ma. Rather than making pointless speculations here, it's better to let time prove everything. The reason for Cheon-ma's attitude change was simply because 2.5 minutes ago I told him, quote, the 4th round mission was no longer simply killing monsters, but battles between players. So he must be careful of everything around him. If my plan could proceed smoothly, after the 4th round ends, Cheon-ma would definitely spare no effort to win me over. Then let me solidify my identity as a prophet, and get along with you all. Anyone who's won the lottery jackpot definitely knows to win a girl's heart. You absolutely don't use your sincerity, but your talent for driving a Ferrari with one hand. Minju looked at the man before her in disbelief. Is this really your car? Seeing her nervous expression, I couldn't help but tease her. Isn't it obvious? Get in and see for yourself, accompanied by the roar of the engine. Minju sighed that this was her first time in a supercar. It felt really good, hearing her say this. I hurriedly agreed, saying this car was just bought. Like you, this is also my first time riding in it. Minju asked like a curious baby. How much did you spend on this car? Hearing this, I casually said I only spent 9 million so, but this answer shocked Minju. 9 million. Do you know how many small supermarkets 9 million could open? Probably couldn't earn 9 million in my entire lifetime. Hearing Minju so dejected, I consoled her. Don't underestimate yourself. A few days ago, I also had nothing. But now, don't I have everything? At this moment, Minju couldn't hear what I was saying at all. Completely immersed in her own fantasy world. He has billions in assets. Yet he's willing to go for a drive with me. Could he be interested in me? This feeling is like being on a date. Minju's cheeks unconsciously flushed red, looking at the dazed Minju. I continued saying, Minju, I have something I need to confess to you. But Minju heard it as a confession of love. Her little brain immediately short-circuited. Confession. I coughed twice to break the awkward situation. It's a confession, yes. Realizing her mistake, Minju hurriedly waved her hands to cover her embarrassment, saying she was just joking. But internally she had already fled in panic 100 times. Then I explained to Minju, the reason I could win the lottery and make profits in the stock market wasn't because of good luck, but because I possessed the future rune. But Minju was delighted to hear this news. Your rune sounds really amazing. But why would you tell me something so private? Hearing this, I smiled faintly. Didn't you also tell me about your rune before, Tom? I felt this was only fair to you. But Minju naively said, I feel it's not fair at all, because what I showed before was just my professional ability. Since you're talking about fairness, I'll tell you about my rune then. Actually, the rune I possess is the Guardian rune. It can provide a shield for up to 5 targets around me. Having said all this, Minju smiled like a child. She sighed at the feeling of speaking her heart. It was really comfortable. Then she asked again, why I would tell her the secret of my rune. I told her that if I didn't tell her the truth, she definitely wouldn't believe what I was going to tell her next. Then I told Minju the intelligence about the 4th round. After hearing it, Minju was shocked and at a loss. Seeing that she didn't realize the seriousness of the situation at all, I repeatedly warned her to be careful of everything around her. Seeing how much I cared about her, Minju once again fell into her own world, unable to extricate herself. He cares about me so much. He must be somewhat interested in me if he pursues me. Should I accept him or not? After sending Minju home, I felt somewhat at a loss, after being reborn 100 times. I only just discovered that Minju liked me. Now with this emotional foundation, I could bet to win over Minju, seeing that there were only 2.5 minutes left before the 4th round began. I directly selected an item, called shadow gloves from the shop. Its effect was to make the wearer invisible in darkness. This was the equipment I had my eye on. It could work in conjunction with Death Knight. 2.5 minutes later, all players were transported into the game. Kunho looked angrily at his own punishment. He knew his situation was dangerous, only by quickly finding Death God's scythe would he have a chance of survival. In just 2.5 seconds, he found me in the crowd. His heart was now filled with resentment toward me, but he had no choice but to humbly beg for my protection. Boss, do you still remember our agreement from last round? I said mockingly. You said it yourself. It was last round's agreement. What are you coming to me for now? I won't waste time protecting a useless piece of trash. Hearing these words, Kunho's face turned ashen. He knew that losing my protection meant only death. I comforted him not to be nervous, because becoming regional representative only put oneself in danger. As the number of class-changed players increased, mandatory command authority would no longer exist, so no one would take that risk. Meanwhile, 2 pay-to-win players walked over. Kunho saw the 2 approaching, and knew they came with ill intentions. The people were those he had previously hunted, Seo Ryong and Sang-chul. They came over this time to express gratitude for how I had previously saved them from the thugs. While speaking, Sang-chul stared meaningfully at Kunho. Hearing Sang-chul call him a thug, Kunho flew into a rage and was about to attack. I grabbed him and held him back. Then I told Sang-chul, saying thanks once is enough. A second time is somewhat excessive. Seeing this, Seo Ryong very tactfully took out a purple crystal. 1,000 words cannot express our gratitude to you, but please accept this. Seeing this item, I was also somewhat shocked, but my expression remained cold. That Seo Ryong would give away such a treasure was something I hadn't expected. Then I expressed that, considering her sincerity, I would reluctantly accept it. After all, such a precious gift. I had no reason to refuse. When Seo Ryong saw my expression remained coldly indifferent, it made her heart extremely anxious, because she herself didn't know the value of this crystal. Afraid that I would be unhappy, receiving what seemed like a broken stone. To verify my thoughts, I used the mind rune to peer into Seo Ryong's heart. She indeed didn't understand the value of this item. Then the mind rune heard Kunho's inner voice. I also have a broken stone like that. I think it's called dark gold. At this moment, I was also speechless. He actually had dark gold too. You have to know that rare items like dark gold only had a chance to drop after killing tens of thousands of monsters. The drop rate was so low it touched all players. And through my 100 reincarnations, I had only obtained a few pieces each time. Seeing me put the dark gold in my backpack, Seo Ryong took the opportunity to ask if I needed support. The spirit she summoned could cast shields for players. I thanked her but declined her offer. while also telling her I wanted to be alone. After being rejected, Seo Ryong looked very dejected. She never would have imagined that even a beauty like herself would be rejected. After sending the two away, I hurriedly called out to Kunho, who wanted to slip away, and told him his situation was now very dangerous. But this statement left Kunho completely confused. He said, "Didn't I just say no one would target him?" Then I explained, "There are 1,000 hamlets here. I can't guarantee that every hamlet thinks the same way. What if some unclassed player becomes greedy for profit, scared until his legs went weak?" He anxiously asked me what solution I had, seeing the fish had taken the bait, to obtain my protection. He only needed to give me a stone, similar to Seo Ryong's. Hearing this, Kunho opened his backpack without hesitation, took out the dark gold, and handed it directly to me. This time, the hypocritical angel descended once again. He announced with an evil smile, "This game has no complicated missions. Players simply need to engage in 3 hours of mutual slaughter." Seeing the player's panicked appearance, the angel's mouth curved upward, laughing maniacally without end. At this time, a bold player raised a question. Is that as long as we kill one player, we can pass? But the angel denied the man's statement. "We angels do not support your mutual slaughter. But how to complete the mission is up to you. What I can tell you is that of 1,000 players, only the top 500 ranked can pass." Looking at the hypocritical angel, my eyes filled with disdain. Simply because I knew angels were merely game guides. They had no authority to set rules. The angel concealed the important rules for clearing the 4th round. His doing so was definitely sanctioned by higher-ups. Then the angel, amid everyone's confused faces, announced the start of the competition. "Please begin slaughtering each other, players. You must remember, the more you kill, the higher your chances of survival." However, at this moment, Kunho was full of confidence. He thought that with Death God Scythe's protection, he could easily escape. Just as he was immersed in his own fantasy, I suddenly appeared behind him, startling him. Looking at the confused Kunho, I raised my left hand and slowly summoned the power of Death God. Then I began to fulfill my promise, not to let him become someone else's target. With one strike taking Kunho's first blood, because only I knew the angel's hidden game rules. As Kunho's body hit the ground, system notification also rang out simultaneously. "Congratulations, player, for activating hidden mission. Kill the regional representative within the specified time. Reward, lowest grade magician lottery token." The hidden mission's reward filled my heart with wild joy, but I still maintained a calm expression. But this angered the nearby players who were watching the spectacle. They began taking the moral high ground, condemning my wanton killing. It's completely inhumane. Facing these baseless accusations, I was too lazy to respond, because I had already learned through the mind rune that these self-righteous people's true purpose was also to kill the regional representative first, but they didn't expect me to beat them to it. In terms of combat power, they were no match for me, so they could only use public opinion to attack me, trying to unite all players to isolate me. But I didn't care about their criticism. For me, Kunho was just the beginning. My slaughter would continue until the end of the 20th round. All players clearly knew 4th round's game rules, yet still wanted to take the moral high ground, representing justice in their condemnation. At this moment, some players with ulterior motives had already begun inciting those around them, preparing to join forces to kill me. Perhaps they thought this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, but in my eyes it was nothing more than a joke. And this smile of mine gave them the opportunity they seized. A woman furiously accused me of having no reverence for life, committing such inhumane acts, yet still being able to smile. Before the woman could finish speaking, the system notification suddenly rang out. "Congratulations, Black Scythe, for becoming the new regional representative." As soon as this message appeared, the originally clamoring crowd fell silent. Time seemed to freeze at this moment. Human nature ultimately cannot withstand the test. Those who appear charitable and kind will show their vicious side when faced with life-threatening situations. Those who are naturally vicious and cruel become like timid rabbits when facing someone even more brutal. Then I mocked the player who had shouted the loudest earlier. "Weren't you shouting quite fiercely just now? How did you become mute now? Are you afraid I'll give you orders because you haven't changed classes yet?" At the same time, my ID suddenly turned red, faced with this unknown change. All players showed expressions of terror, but I already knew. This was the red name that appeared from killing players. Anyone who's played Legend knows, the more you kill, the deeper the red becomes. This change was to distinguish between citizens and criminals. People usually choose to kill criminals to reduce their own sense of guilt, but those who defeated criminals eventually became criminals themselves, and criminals once again became targets for citizens. At this time, the players were still constrained by moral limitations and hadn't acted, but this wasn't what I hoped to see. I said in an ice-cold voice, "Being merciful to others is being cruel to yourself. If you want to survive, fight for it yourself." Having said these words, I turned and left. I understood that even if I didn't say these words, the players would definitely start fighting. It's just that by then it would be too late. Players would desperately fight over the last chance for survival, ultimately causing the situation to spiral out of control, with far fewer surviving players than the passing quota. At this time, the players' originally false compassion was shaken by my words. They began arguing heatedly over this. So Ryong, driven by misplaced sympathy, was still asking Unsang Chul whether they really had to be as inhumane as Black Scythe. Unsang Chul gave a definitive response. "If you want to survive, you can only do this. Reality will be even more cruel than what Black Scythe described. You need to prepare yourself mentally." The players' discussions grew more intense, but they were still hesitating about who they should eliminate first. Someone suggested eliminating the red-named players first. They should pay for their crimes. But soon he was harshly slapped in the face. "There's only one red-named player, Black Scythe. How are you going to eliminate him?" At this time, there were still bleeding hearts saying that even criminals don't deserve death. All people are equal. No one has the right to take another's life. A green-haired girl mocked. "You're so kind. Why don't you go die first? That way you won't have to compete with us." As soon as these words were spoken, they instantly pierced the bleeding heart's fragile soul. As the arguments escalated, both summoned their weapons, but were constrained by moral limitations and reluctant to act. Watching these keyboard warriors truly gave me a headache. But in the next second, an opportunity finally appeared that would make players abandon their so-called morals and slaughter freely. Kunho, who had already died, now seemed like he'd just woken up, yawning. When he opened his sleepy eyes, he discovered that over one pair of eyes was staring straight at him. He was confused. Why was everyone looking at him so strangely? The player broke the tense silence. Had he actually revived? The green-haired player. Could this mean that in this round, the dead will be resurrected? We no longer need to have any reservations. For a moment, the entire arena erupted into chaos. Gradually, the players' concerns began to disappear. Since everyone could be revived after death, there were no longer any moral constraints. And a player who had been itching to act earlier, upon learning this rule, suddenly launched a sneak attack on the woman beside him. Since none of you dare to make the first move, I'll use you as an experiment then. Although this scene still made many players feel resistant, ultimately no one stepped forward to stop it. Instead, they all stood quietly to the side, waiting for the woman to revive. 10 minutes later, the woman, just like Kunho, stood up again. She shouted angrily at everyone. Which bastard was it that sneak attacked me? This time, the man who had acted not only felt no guilt, but even wanted to repeat his actions. But before he could strike again, another burly man had already raised his weapon, struck him down. In an instant, the entire world was like opening Pandora's box, and everyone began slaughtering each other like madmen. At this moment, the evil of human nature was fully revealed. Seeing that everyone had become bloodthirsty, I knew the time had come. I summoned my death god scythe. A cold gleam flashed across, and several players in front fell at my feet. But even so, there were still foolish guys who wanted to sneak attack me. But the final outcome was already predetermined. Just then, a burst of laughter caught my attention. I saw a man called Ryong frantically slaughtering players. From the color of his name, he had already killed at least 10 people, and this was all because he had obtained an absorption rune in the first round. As long as he defeated opponents, he could absorb energy. The stronger the enemy, the more energy absorbed. And when the energy bar was full, he could gain a random attribute point. Looking at his constantly increasing energy bar, he showed a greedy expression, thinking that if he could kill the level 30 Black Scythe, he should be able to gain many attribute points. However, he still had self-awareness, knowing that provoking that guy now would definitely cause him great trouble. Finally, he turned his gaze back to ordinary players, listening to the wails coming from the players' mouths. His spirit was immensely satisfied. This round was simply tailor-made for him, players constantly reviving and charging at him, with a shortcut to making him continuously stronger after dealing with the players in front of him. Ryong prepared to kill his way to another area, but just then I blocked his path before he could react in any way. Death Knight was released. The entire world was instantly shrouded in darkness, accompanied by a flash of light. The next second, Ryong's body went limp. The scene shifted. When Kunho woke up, he was initially at a loss, but after confirming that death wasn't truly death, he showed a sinister expression. Those who had betrayed him. Now he would settle accounts with them one by one. Meanwhile, an archer aimed at 2 severely wounded players. Just as he was about to end these 2 lives, Kunho enthusiastically approached. But the next second, Kunho's face turned vicious, pressing the archer's neck to the ground with one palm, pummeling the archer's head with punch after punch. Kunho vented all his anger on this good friend. Didn't you say before that you'd slaughter me the next time we met? Why aren't you fighting back now? The scene shifted. At this moment, Ryong couldn't handle the situation as well as Kunho. She could only try her best to adapt to this kind of slaughter. But psychologically, she couldn't help but feel instinctive rejection, and Sangchul immediately noticed Ryong's abnormality. His face darkened. Although he could help Ryong resolve the troubles in front of her, if he couldn't let her grow on her own, he was afraid that in the end there would be no way to fulfill the chairman's instructions. And just at this moment, a man suddenly appeared behind Ryong, thrusting a dagger viciously at Ryong's vital points. And Sangchul struck down his weapon with lightning speed, then with a backhand sword strike knocked the man to the ground. But he didn't kill the man, instead having Ryong come over to finish him off. Ryong, who had never killed anyone before, tremblingly raised her weapon, thinking of what Black Scythe had said earlier, finally steeled her heart and ended the man's life. But the physiological reaction afterward made her vomit uncontrollably. A moment later, there was only 1 hour left until the game ended. After Sangchul's assistance, Ryong had currently eliminated over 50 players. This number was enough to get her on the leaderboard. Only then did Sangchul breathe a sigh of relief. For the remaining time, he had to focus on himself. As time became increasingly urgent, I quickened my pace. I had to obtain the first place reward for this round, because I knew just how strong the 20th round boss would be, so I couldn't waste any opportunity to become stronger. But the 4th round had another hidden rule: killing the same player. Couldn't score multiple times, so I had to constantly search for new faces. For long, streams of golden light surrounded each player. The 4th round of the game finally came to an end. At this moment, the players were still immersed in slaughter, unable to extricate themselves, but then the angel's laughter slowly rang out. Filthy humans. Although you've made a complete mess of this place, your performance was indeed quite entertaining. Having said that, those dead players instantly regained their vitality. But at this time, there were still players cursing because they had been killed, until the angel's cold voice rang out. Only then did the entire space fall into silence. Subsequently, the angel revealed this round's hidden mission. But only Black Scythe had completed the task. Hearing this news, everyone felt immense regret. Why didn't they eliminate Kunho earlier? Kunho, hearing the conversation, only felt a wave of fear. He never imagined he was so hated by others. Next, the angel began announcing this round's rankings. Upon learning that killing the same person multiple times couldn't score repeatedly, many players collapsed to the ground, based on kill counts. Regional first place, Black Scythe killed a total of 722 players, while Dark Knight Ma Kyung-soo ranked 3rd. Seeing that this round's first place was still Black Scythe, the angel also showed an expression of utter shock. He never expected that with just one person. He had eliminated 70% of this region's players, and upon learning this information, all players looked upon him as if seeing the true Grim Reapers, but their eyes filled with terror when looking at Black Scythe. As the current region's first place, I obtained the ultimate armor selection right. I chose the Crimson Assassin without hesitation. This equipment not only had 60 defense points, but also provided an additional 5% attack and movement speed. This was currently the most suitable equipment for me, at the same time as regional first place. I could also choose one special reward. Without question, I again chose to receive additional experience bonuses in the 5th round. After all rewards were distributed, the Angel would also punish players outside the rankings. Since the 5th second place score was 30 points, all players who killed fewer than 30 people would face death. As beams of light descended from above, these players' bodies turned into points of starlight, gradually dispersing, until the final moment of their lives. Their eyes held only helplessness and despair. After the 4th round officially ended, all players returned to reality. But Sang-chul had just returned. When he anxiously burst into Ma Kyung-soo's room, Ma Kyung-soo's eyes were bleary, asking what had happened. It turned out that Sang-chul had been unable to contact him, thinking something had happened to him, which is why he had rushed in so frantically. Ma Kyung-soo smiled with relief. This round had exhausted him greatly, so he had collapsed on the bed and fallen asleep immediately upon returning. And Sang-chul suddenly understood. That makes sense. After all, you achieved regional 3rd place, Mom. But Ma Kyung-soo wasn't satisfied with this. He had given his all, barely managing to kill 493 players. Yet 1st place Black Scythe had over 300 more kills than him. What kind of monster possessed such strength? Thinking that if the other party could join forces with him, the remaining games would definitely be much more reassuring. Then Ma Kyung-soo thought of Ryu Min. If he could use his prophetic abilities to gather intelligence about Black Scythe, that would definitely be of great help. Now, after the 4th round, both men firmly believed that Ryu Min possessed the ability to predict the future. Regarding making him their business partner, Ma Kyung-soo also expressed his approval. As for the company's future development, he would also follow Ryu Min's suggestions. Then he told Sang-chul to maintain a respectful attitude toward Ryu Min. Even if you don't like him, you must praise him and follow his lead. Only this way can we obtain useful intelligence from him. After hearing Ma Kyung-soo's words, Sang-chul also felt very ashamed. His rashness had almost ruined the chairman's plans. Since that's the case, tonight you arrange a party. At that time, invite Mr. Ryu Min and his friends and family to join us in celebrating our survival in this round. The next day, Ryu Min invited Julie to dine together. To celebrate surviving, Ryu Min said they could eat whatever they wanted today, all expenses on him. On the way to the restaurant, Julie once again expressed her gratitude to Ryu Min. If it weren't for your warning that I needed to defeat at least 30 players, I might not have made it back. Ryu Min didn't mind this, because even if he hadn't told her this intelligent secret, Julie could have survived through her own wisdom. Compared to hothouse flowers like Seo Aryong, Julie was like wild grass, resilient and self-reliant. A moment later, the two arrived at the restaurant. But even after all the dishes were served, Julie still hesitated to eat. After all, her first time killing had resulted in over 30 deaths. Psychologically, she felt quite guilty. Ryu Min immediately noticed Julie's abnormality. He comforted Julie not to feel too guilty. After all, for everyone, this was unavoidable. So we must survive, because our families are waiting for us to wake up. These words deeply touched Julie's heart, thinking that if she never woke up again, how heartbroken Dad would be. At this moment, she finally pulled herself together. Thank you for your encouragement. I know what I should do from now on. Soon, the two had completely devoured the delicious food on the table. After the meal, Ryu Min didn't beat around the bush, directly stating that he wanted to share intelligence about the 5th round with Julie. Julie was shocked after hearing this. Did you foresee the future again? Yes, the 5th round will be extremely difficult, and regions will merge together. Does that mean we can meet in the game? Ryu Min denied this, but he still indicated that in future rounds, they would eventually meet. And this was actually Ryu Min deliberately concealing that they would meet in the 5th round, in order to hide his identity as Black Scythe. Having said this, Ryu Min looked seriously at Julie. The 5th round will be very difficult. You might not even pass the test. A boy confessing to a goddess for the first time. But his opening line tells her, you might die soon. But after hearing this, the girl wasn't surprised. Instead, she believed it completely, because she thought the boy before her possessed the ability to predict the future. She tremblingly asked, what should I do then? Seeing her nervous expression, Ryu Min continued to comfort her. You must find Black Scythe before the mission begins, then seek his help. Upon hearing this, Julie couldn't help but tremble. You mean that regional first place Black Scythe? But how could he possibly agree to my request so easily? Ryu Min smiled slightly. Although you're seeking his help, this is also a form of cooperation. After all, your skills are very important to Black Scythe as well. So I believe he will definitely help you. After hearing Ryu Min's explanation, Julie was obviously still somewhat worried. It seemed she still didn't know just how powerful her skills were. Then, to put her at ease, Ryu Min continued explaining that this was all foreseen. In the future, Black Scythe will not only help you, but your cooperation will continue indefinitely. With Ryu Min's prophecy, Julie finally felt relieved. She smiled at Ryu Min as a token of gratitude. She cast her blessing skill as a warm current swept through his entire body. Ryu Min felt incredibly comfortable both physically and mentally. After returning home, while the blessing time hadn't expired yet, Ryu Min took out that magic card. Once opened, he could randomly obtain 1 to 5 low-grade magic crystals. The higher the luck value, the more he would get. But this was meaningless to Ryu Min. After all, his luck value had already reached 84 points. As for praying to gods, such actions were complete bullshit, because he knew the mastermind behind this damn game might be the gods themselves. Thinking of this, Ryu Min hesitated no longer. He once again made up his mind to definitely destroy this game. At the same time, the system popped up a notification. Congratulations, you obtained 5 low-grade magic crystals. Seeing this result, Ryu Min was also somewhat surprised. In previous reincarnations, even when constantly praying to the gods, he'd only obtained 2 at most. But now, after cursing at the gods, he got 5. Indeed, even gods deserve to be cursed at. Next, he synthesized the low-grade magic crystals, further improving the magic crystal's grade. After embedding all the crystals, his attributes once again saw significant improvement. In the evening, Ryu Min received an invitation to Ma Kyung-soo's party, so he called his little brother, wanting him to broaden his horizons together. But upon learning that the one inviting them was the heir, the Cheonma group, his brother was scared into trembling. A moment later, the 2 brothers finished preparing and were ready to head to the party. But just as they opened the door, and Sang-chul was already waiting at the entrance, he first apologized for his rudeness during their last meeting, then explained that he had come specifically to escort them to the hotel. Neither brother took this to heart. The scene shifted. Everyone arrived at the hotel, but as soon as they got out of the car, Ma Kyung-soo personally came forward to greet them. The two exchanged pleasantries at the entrance for a moment. However, this time made his little brother so nervous he didn't know what to do. Fortunately, Ma Kyung-soo noticed the little guy beside him, and with a few words dissolved his nervous mood. Then everyone went to the private room. The moment they pushed open the door, the golden, magnificent decoration once again shocked his little brother greatly. As Anuvo reached his brother, where had he ever seen such a scene? He immediately froze in place. And just then the door was pushed open again. A graceful woman slowly walked in. It was the popular star, Seo Ah-ryong. At this moment she had shed her aloof screen persona. Appearing so gentle and charming, Seo Ah-ryong showed an apologetic expression, saying she had just attended an actor's funeral, which was why she was slightly late. Ma Kyung-soo didn't mind this at all. He beckoned Seo Ah-ryong to come forward and introduce herself when she saw the two Ryu-min brothers. She instantly showed an extremely surprised expression. She never expected that the major shareholder Ma Kyung-soo mentioned was actually the neighbor who had given her rice cakes. But she was, after all, a well-informed popular star, and quickly regained her composure. But at this time, his little brother was completely captivated by Seo Ah-ryong. This was the first time he had such close contact with the goddess. His previously slightly relaxed mood became tense again.